The first scream shattered the calm of the schoolyard. It wasn't from pain, it was from shock. Cold water burst from a garden hose, drenching the new girl's hair, clothes, and backpack until they clung to her like wet rags. Students froze mid-step, laughter and gasps mixing in the warm afternoon air. The bullies stood in a loose circle, their ringleader gripping the nozzle with a smirk that could cut glass. The girl's name was Aria, and this was her second day at Riverstone High. Aria didn't move at first. The water pounded against her face, and all she could think of was the summer 2 years ago when her brother had pulled her from the river, coughing and shaking. The memory burned behind her eyes. She clenched her fists, but not out of fear, out of something much heavier. Humiliation was loud, it rang in your ears, dug into your chest, and told you that everyone was watching. And they were. The bullies didn't know Aria's story. They didn't know she had transferred from a small rural school after her parents split, or that she'd promised her little brother she would never let anyone walk over her again. They didn't know the girl in front of them wasn't the quiet pushover they thought she was. The ringleader, Jason, shouted over the laughter, "Welcome to Riverstone."
"New girl! Cool enough for you!"
His friends howled. Aria took a slow step forward. The water hit harder, but she didn't flinch. She walked until she was close enough to grab the hose, and then, without warning, she yanked it down, ripping it from Jason's hands. The jet of water spun wildly, spraying the group in all directions. The laughter died instantly, replaced by shrieks as icy water soaked their designer sneakers, hoodies, and hair. Jason lunged for the hose, but Aria held it like she'd been training for this moment her whole life. "Run," she said, calm, almost too calm. Her voice had the kind of edge that made people's stomachs drop before their brains caught up. Then she turned the stream directly on Jason's chest, forcing him backward as he stumbled and slipped on the wet grass. The other bullies scattered first. Jason tried to keep his balance, but one step on a patch of mud sent him sprawling to the ground, arms flailing. By the time he scrambled to his feet, drenched and furious, Aria had cut off the water and tossed the hose aside. The yard was silent now, except for the drip of water from her sleeves. "Don't ever try that again," she said, her eyes locked on Jason's. Something in her stare told him she wasn't bluffing, that she was the kind of person who would stand her ground, no matter what. And maybe for the first time in his life he believed it. That moment spread through the school like wildfire. Whispers of what happened reached every hallway, every classroom. Some students smiled at her in passing. Others, the quiet ones, nodded like they understood exactly what she had done and why it mattered. Later that day, a girl named Mia slid into the seat next to Aria in the cafeteria. She was shy, with glasses that slipped down her nose, but her voice was steady. "I saw what you did. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for all of us." Aria didn't know what to say, but the warmth in her chest felt like an answer. The bullies kept their distance after that, but it wasn't just fear. It was respect, the kind that came from knowing someone wouldn't bend under pressure. And for the first time since arriving at Riverstone, Aria felt like she belonged. By the end of the week, Aria had made a small circle of friends, each with their own scars from the school's unspoken social battles. They weren't the loudest, but together they were unshakable. Aria never went looking for trouble after that, but if it came her way, she didn't run. And slowly, people began to realize that the new girl had brought something to Riverstone High that couldn't be hosed away. Courage. The lesson lingered long after the grass in the yard dried. Standing up for yourself might scare people, but it also inspires them. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room has the loudest roar when it matters most. The first thing anyone heard was the sound of running water, sharp, heavy, unrelenting. Then came the scream. Not from pain, but from shock. In the middle of Riverstone High's sunlit schoolyard, a thin stream of water turned into a torrent, blasting straight into the chest of the new girl, drenching her from head to toe. The crowd didn't move. Some laughed nervously, others just stared wide-eyed. And right there in front, gripping the hose like a trophy, was Jason Turner, the school's unofficial king of cruelty. "This is how we welcome newbies." Jason smirked, twisting the nozzle so the spray hit her face. "Cool enough for you, new girl." Her name was Aria. This was her second day at Riverstone High. Aria stood frozen, her sneakers squished under the growing puddle beneath her feet. The icy water seeped into her jacket, making her shiver, but not from the cold. Around her, whispers started. Who is she? She's not going to do anything. She's probably going to cry. But Arya didn't cry. She stared straight at Jason, her hair plastered to her cheeks, and for a split second something flashed in her eyes. A memory. 2 years ago, standing on a muddy riverbank, coughing up water while her little brother clung to her, terrified. She remembered the promise she made to him that day, never again. Jason laughed and pulled the nozzle higher, like he was the director of some cruel movie. His friends, Tyler, Mason, and Lexi, chuckled from behind him. But then Arya did something none of them expected. She took one slow step forward, then another. The water pounded against her, but she didn't flinch. By the time she reached Jason, his smirk had faltered. Arya's hand shot out, gripping the hose with surprising strength. With a sharp tug, she ripped it from his hands. The spray whipped sideways, drenching Lexi, who shrieked and backed away. Jason lunged, but Arya held her ground, twisting the nozzle toward him. The icy stream hit him square in the chest. His designer hoodie darkened instantly, dripping water. The crowd erupted, not in laughter, but in gasps and cheers. Jason stumbled backwards, slipping in the mud as Arya advanced, her face calm, almost unreadable. "Run," she said quietly. Jason froze, but his friends didn't. Tyler bolted first, followed by Lexi. Jason scrambled to his feet, muttering curses as he backed away. Then, with a final glare, he turned and ran after them. When Arya finally turned off the water, the yard was buzzing with whispers. Some kids looked at her like she was dangerous. Others looked at her like she was a hero. At lunch, Arya sat alone until a girl with glasses and a shy smile slid into the seat beside her. "I'm Mia," she said. "I saw what you did. People have been putting up with Jason for years. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for all of us." Arya felt the heat rise to her cheeks. She wasn't sure she'd done it for anyone else. But maybe that didn't matter. The rest of the week, something shifted. People she didn't know started smiling at her in the halls. Jason and his crew kept their distance. And slowly, a group of kids began sitting with her at lunch. Mia, a boy named Ryan, and 2 others who had been targets of Jason's bullying before. They weren't the loudest or the most popular, but they were united. Teeter. Arya didn't go looking for trouble after that, but she also never backed down from it. Word spread through Riverstone High that the new girl was not someone you messed with. And more importantly, she'd shown everyone that courage was contagious. Sometimes, all it takes is one person refusing to be knocked down to make others stand up. Because in the end, it wasn't the hose that made the bullies run. It was the fact that, for the first time, they were up against someone who wouldn't.